In recent years, there's been a revolutionary transformation that's absolutely crushing the diamond trade. It's turning it upside down, putting jewelers out of business, punishing diamond miners, and confusing jewelry buyers. If you are in the market for a diamond, or you're part of the industry, or you're just curious about the new lab-grown and man-made diamonds, this video is for you. Now, lab-grown, gem-quality synthetic diamonds have been around since the 50s, but until about 15 or 20 years ago, the big deal was that it was actually more expensive to make a man-made diamond that was gem quality than it was just to mine one out of the ground. And so not very many of them were made, and they were more a scientific curiosity and not some kind of business model where you'd make a product that you had to sell for more than what the natural product was. But technology keeps advancing all the time, and by the late 2000s, it started to be a change where it really was cheaper to make man-made stones in a factory, or sometimes they call it a lab, but it really is a factory, to make man-made stones in a factory than it was to dig them out of the ground. By 2015 or so, the man-made diamonds were about 10% or so cheaper than equivalent natural ones. But the prices continued to drop. By 2018, lab diamonds were 30 to 40% cheaper than the equivalent natural stones. And that's just a short time to go from 2015, where it's 10%, to 2018, where it's 30 to 40% difference. And you know what? Even though that was a huge change, the prices have continued to drop since then. By 2022, the lab stones were about half, or sometimes even less than the equivalent natural counterparts, and prices have continued to drop in 2023 and now 2024, and you can buy the man-made stones for maybe 30% or so, sometimes even less than their equivalent natural counterparts. And the natural stones are starting to feel the pressure of the man-made diamonds and the demand for them. The problem is that this differential in price is so large that it's tempting some dishonest people to try and fraudulently sell the cheaper man-made diamonds for the more expensive natural diamond prices. Now, most jewelers are fairly honest. I don't have a problem with that. But you cannot say that there's 100% every single person that's ever been involved in the diamond trade is, as honest as the legendary George Washington who never told a lie. It's just not like that. There are people who are willing to fudge the truth to make a few extra bucks. And when jewelers began to see and feel the effects of the potential for fraud in the diamond market, there was a kind of a panic, both among jewelers and among the labs that grade the stones and say whether a particular stone is man-made or natural.
I went to a major gem show here recently, and at the show, one of the jewelers was showing a big display of loose diamonds, and I took a picture. And all of these diamonds, only the ones on the far right were marked lab diamonds. The rest of them weren't marked anything at all. They weren't marked natural. They weren't marked lab. I don't know whether that means you have to guess. The lab ones, though, were selling for prices, way, way less than the natural ones, or what would be natural, I guess. There's over on the left, 4-carat diamond, a little over 4 carats for sale for $1,275. That's pretty amazing because a similar 4-carat natural diamond would be selling for over $10,000. So you can see that there's such a huge difference, and yet, there's all these stones out there.
Hey, I'm Chris Ralph, the professional prospector, and today we're looking into the world of synthetic man-made diamonds and how they have changed the jewelry industry and will continue to change it, and the big changes that are coming up, because it's not going to go away next year or the year after. In fact, it's only going to get to be a bigger and bigger tsunami of man-made diamonds. Now, there are lots of videos out there about this topic, And this video is totally unique because every video I've ever seen, and I've watched a number of them about this topic, is either by someone in the industry who's selling natural stones or someone in the industry who's selling man-made stones. And so if you watch one of their videos, obviously the guy who's selling the natural stones is going to tell you all the good things about the rarity and specialness of a natural stone. And the guy who's selling the synthetic one is going to tell you about how, they don't require destruction of the earth by mining in order to produce these beautiful stones, and that they're every bit as hard and have all the qualities of a natural diamond because they are diamond. You're going to get the sales pitch one way. Me, I'm a mineralogist and a scientist and an engineer, and I don't care what diamonds you buy. You want to buy a diamond? Great, no problem. It's best for you to be educated. That's all I think. So you can choose whatever you want. I won't have a pitch. I don't have a bias. I don't have a dog in this fight. So you're going to get a different kind of a viewpoint from someone who doesn't have something to sell you. And it's not just the jewelers and the jewelry buyers who are trying to adjust to this new world. The diamond miners are seeing huge effects of this. In fact, last year in 2023 compared to 2022, De Beers had a 37% drop in their sales. Now, it doesn't matter what business you are in, whether you're selling hotel rooms or making hamburgers, manufacturing cars, or selling vacuums. It doesn't make any difference. If your business has a 37% drop in sales over 1 year, and there's not some obvious single one-time thing that caused it, like you had a fire in your warehouse, but you have insurance and you're going to come back to normal. That kind of one-time thing, yeah, that could explain a 37% drop. But if you're like a miner and you're having 37% drop, ooh, that's a killer. That's the kind of thing that puts companies out of business if you have too many years like that. And the truth is, it's not just De Beers. There are other diamond miners, and they're experiencing the exact same thing. Why? Because the synthetic diamond market is affecting the natural stone market. There's a limited demand. Now, as prices come down, maybe more people will buy more diamond jewelry, or maybe they'll buy, more stuff because it's cheaper. But even so, there's a definite situation of synthetic stone sales taking away from potential natural stone sales. And so as the market shifts over toward the synthetic side of things, the natural miners are suffering. And like I say, it's not a short-term thing that's going away next year or the year after or 10 years from now or 50 years from now. Synthetic diamonds is going to be a big issue in the diamond industry for all the future to come. And so De Beers, they see this tsunami of synthetic diamonds, a giant wave of synthetic diamonds, and they practice it's better to join the other side than to quit. So now De Beers, the big famous miner of diamonds, is now producing their own synthetics. They've got factories and they're cranking out their own synthetics and selling directly to the public. And it's not just the diamond miners, the jewelry buyers, and the retail jewelry trade that's going to be affected by this. It's the very diamond making, the people that make the synthetic diamonds, they're going to face a day of reckoning too. It's coming. Right now, making these lab diamonds and selling them is a very profitable industry. They're making money hand over fist because they're able to sell it at a certain price, but they're able to make it even cheaper. And engineers and scientists are continuing to work on this, and they're producing better and larger stones and higher quality and doing it at a lower and lower cost. And so these guys that are in this industry are scrambling to build new factories, to take the factories they have and expand them out so they can produce more and more and more and more synthetic diamonds because they're making big money over them, at least right now. But it's an age-old story. People find something that's very profitable and they get into it, and more and more and more and more and more people get into it, and eventually you're producing too much for the market. And that's going to happen. It's not that far off. It's not in 2024, probably not in 2025, but maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, you're going to see, you're going to start seeing it a little at a time, but there's going to be more and more competition, and it will drive the price of synthetic diamonds down, 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 down. And the big margins that these synthetic diamond makers have right now are going to get squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. And even though the engineers and the scientists will continue to make the process cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, it's not going to be able to keep up with the pace of the overproduction and the squeeze of the margins. And eventually, synthetic diamonds are just going to be pretty cheap. There'll always be a certain amount of cost associated with it. They're not going to be free. You're not going to go buy a 10 karat cut diamond for $10. That isn't going to happen. But even so, the prices will come down a lot, and the margins will get squeezed a lot, and the quality will go up, and they'll be good diamonds. Now, does this mean that my granddaughter, when she gets married, maybe 20 years from now, she's going to have a 15 karat diamond on her wedding ring? Probably not. That's kind of a big stone. But, you know, it is going to be that the typical diamonds, especially if you're willing to accept a synthetic, which a lot of young people, new people do. You know, I actually, this is a story, before I did this video, I asked people that I knew, ladies, you know, if you know, married ladies, I asked them, hey, if somehow the diamond in your wedding ring was lost or destroyed and you had to replace it, would you consider getting synthetic because it's a lot cheaper? And generally speaking, the ladies that were more my age or closer to my age were, no, they really wanted a natural real stone, right? They figured that natural meant real, right? Even though I told them, you know, the synthetics, they have all the same qualities. They're real diamonds. They just didn't come from the earth. But I asked the younger ladies the same thing, you know, if you were getting married or if you had to replace the diamond in your ring, most of them said that for the less expense, they'll go with the synthetic. And see, that's what's going to happen. The market is going to change because more and more younger ladies are going to come to the market and be perfectly happy to accept a synthetic stone. And as a result, the prices, the overproduction is going to cause prices to decrease. And even though demand will go up, the costs are going to keep coming down. So let's take a look at what the new synthetics look like. You know, the engineers and the scientists, like I say, have made some gigantic strides to improve the quality of these stones and the size of them. Initially, the synthetic diamonds were kind of on the small side, but that's no longer the case. The big change in the big area of production that's going on as far as synthetic gem quality diamonds and the big advancement in it is mostly in this process, what's called the CVD process. It stands for chemical vapor depositions. We'll get all into the process and how it works in just a minute. But they're making large and beautiful stones. They just had one that came out that was advertised in one of the gem magazines I saw that was a 34 karat CVD diamond. Very nice, beautiful stone. That's a 34 karat diamond. That's a big stone. That's a gigantic diamond. Okay, and the other process, the HPHT, we're going to talk about that too. But the largest one that I know about anyway has been a little over 10 carats. And so there's a really lot coming out on the market, and if you don't know about these synthetics diamonds, then let's take a closer look. I'll show you some images, and we'll get into what these new synthetic diamonds, the man-made diamonds, look like.
Both of the two main techniques, the HPHT, which stands for high pressure, high temperature, and the CVD, which stands for chemical vapor deposition, both of these techniques produce nice, clear, colorless stones of good clarity, very high quality. And they produce large, high-quality stones, which make for some very beautiful diamond rings, engagement rings and that sort of thing, that would have been astronomical in price, but are now quite affordable. The technique has been refined large enough that some very large stones can be produced that are of high quality and great beauty. This is the largest CVD type diamond that's been seen on the market. It weighs 34 carats. That's an amazing stone. This is the largest high pressure, high temperature version of the diamond that's been seen. This weighs a little over 10 carats, but it's a beautiful sapphire blue. They've even gotten to where they can do tricks with the diamonds that they grow. This is a literal diamond ring. They grew a diamond crystal in a ring shape and faceted the outer part of it. The inside where your finger goes is still the same, but the outer part's been faceted, but it's a 4-carat solid made of diamond ring. And perhaps in the future, a diamond ring will mean something like this. And of course, they can manufacture them in almost whatever color they want. You can see this is a set of high pressure, high temperature diamonds. And actually the one on the far right is not faceted. That's a raw crystal as it comes out of the manufacturing process. The center stone is colorless, but they have a wide variety of colors that they can make them. These stones are manufactured by the CVD or chemical vapor deposition process, and of course they have their own set of colors that they can manufacture. So with big beautiful stones like this coming onto the market at very reasonable prices, you can see why the natural stones have a hard time competing. Because what young lady who was seeking to buy an engagement ring or hoping for an engagement ring would not be pleased with a stone and a ring that looked like this, a big, beautiful diamond? And no one can tell without special testing equipment whether it's lab created or whether it's natural.
Now, I mentioned that there's a fraud problem. Can anyone really tell the difference? Now, one of the things that you need to know, it's really important, is that it's not easy to tell the difference between a natural and a man-made diamond. Can it be done? Absolutely. But is it easy? The answer is no. The question, you cannot just take a loop, magnification, look at a diamond and say, oh yeah, that's definitely lab or that's definitely natural. That can't be done. It requires special equipment to look at the stones, and the equipment can tell. The equipment's kind of expensive, and at least in the near future, not all jewelers are going to have this kind of equipment. Probably in the long run, it's going to be functionally necessary that a jeweler has this kind of testing equipment so they can test for themselves and assure themselves that the diamonds that they're purchasing, if they're buying natural diamonds, that they really are natural diamonds. The price difference right now is so large that those who are willing to be a little dishonest are, going to take chances and try and make an extra buck by lying about a stone. To buy a stone that's a inexpensive lamp-made stone and then try and sell it as an expensive natural stone. And the jeweler that you use, he may be the most honest guy on the planet. Maybe you've known him for years. He may be a great guy, but what about all the people who sell to him? Is everybody who sells to him honest too? Does he know everybody that well? It's hard to say. And people will sometimes do things that are a little dicey when they need money. And if they don't have the equipment to test it, there's just no telling for sure. Now, there's more mix-up in this whole situation than you might expect. I can say that there's been record of diamond parcels, meaning parcels of similar sized stones. Usually they're more on the smaller side, but parcels of similar sized stones where they've gone through and it's a parcel supposedly of natural stones and somebody fills in a few stones that are synthetics. When they go test them all, it turns out that a certain percentage of those natural stones are really man-made ones. You can see why people would do that to make a little extra money. But there's also been parcels of supposedly synthetic stones that are found to contain a few natural stones. And then it's like, well, why would anybody put the more expensive natural stones into a parcel that's sold as synthetics? And I'll tell you why. It's because the cutters are mixing them up. The cutters, they have factories that cut diamonds. It's not just something that, one guy does, but they have whole factories that the business of the factory is to take raw diamonds and cut them into shape. And these diamond dealers or diamond cutters, they will have some stones that they cut that are man-made, that are synthetic. And they have some stones that they cut that are natural. The cutting process is actually fairly similar for natural or man-made because they're the same hardness, same optical properties. So they're actually mixing them up. So there's another potential problem in buying a natural stone. It may be mixed up by the cutter. Then the other thing is you may say, well, my jeweler gave me a certificate by a special lab. And, there's a number of labs, GIA, IGI, there's several of them that are well-known labs, reputable, that sort of thing, that grade diamonds. And of course, in addition to the grade now, we're seeing what the color is and how many flaws are in it. They also grade whether it's a natural or a man-made stone. But if you say, well, I have a synthetic stone, so I know my stone is natural. The fraudsters have gotten around that too. They actually are able to look at stones because the certificates are online, and they find a certificate for a natural stone that's similar to a synthetic that they own, and they actually take the same laser type of thing and inscribe on the edge of the diamond the certificate number for the natural stone, even though the stone is a synthetic. Let me show you some pictures. We'll talk about it a little bit.
Now, the GIA, which is the Gemology Institute of America, is one of the labs that certify stones, and they'll go through and they identify all the flaws and the color and the size and the weight and all the different factors of it. And then when they do their report, the report has a serial number, and they will actually take a laser, very finely etch onto the edge of the stone. This is what they call the girdle of the stone, and they'll etch the serial number on there, and that way you can identify the stone with the certificate. So if your jeweler gives you a certificate and you can look through the magnification and see on the stone that it's got the right serial number, well, you can be assured that it's absolutely genuine and natural, right? Wrong. You see, this is a fake stone. This is a GIA. It was the label, and the certificate number was put on by crooks. And what they did was they had a lab-made, inexpensive stone that they went through a list of GIA real natural stones and found one that was very, very similar. And I think this was a 6-carat stone. So this would be a pretty high dollar natural stone. And somehow after a time was sold as a natural stone, even though it wasn't. And somehow after a time, the owner decided he wanted to get it tested to see whether it was really natural. And the GIA got it back, and they looked at the stone, and even though it has the right serial number on it for a natural stone, this stone is a synthetic. And so, just because you have a certificate number and a certificate that says it's natural, it's not 100% that it's actually natural, that it isn't a lab stone. The crooks have gotten around it by etching numbers on the girdle of the stone.
So let's talk a little bit about how they do it. There's two methods that are used industrial today to produce diamonds. One is high pressure, high temperature, HPHT, and the other is chemical vapor deposition. That's the CVD method. The high pressure, high temperature one is similar to more like how diamonds are formed in nature, because they're formed deep in the earth at hot temperatures and at really high pressures in the earth. And then the chemical vapor deposition are actually formed a few atoms at a time, grown in a special environment. And we'll talk about these different methods. We'll do the HT first, but let's get into the methods of how they grow these synthetic diamonds. Okay, so diamonds grown by the high pressure, high temperature technique use extreme pressures and temperatures with a catalyst to help speed the diamond growing process up to make their diamonds. Basically, the method is that they take a small formed diamond seed and surround it with carbon, and then package it into an apparatus that will hold the whole thing together, and then they put it in a really high pressure press, kind of a pressure belt. They call it a belt press, but it creates huge amounts of pressure on this apparatus, and then the apparatus is such that it focuses its pressure down on the carbon and the diamond. And then the carbon under that, it's heated also. They put electricity through there that causes heat to be generated, and it gets to be a red hot heat. And under the high pressure and the high temperature, the carbon actually melts. And because of the catalyst, it begins to grow around that diamond seed. And over time, the seed keeps growing and growing and consuming the carbon that it was surrounded by. The carbon is converted into diamond because diamonds are made of carbon. The whole thing is then carefully cooled and the diamond brought out. Now, this HPHT method is used to grow huge amounts of abrasive diamond and has been for decades and decades. Something like 99% of all diamond used as abrasive comes from HPHT, and the 1% that isn't HPHT is the natural diamond that's crushed and used as an abrasive. The catalyst that's added is needed to help accelerate the diamond growth process, because normally in the ground, deep in the earth, diamonds are grown at a very, very slow rate. They take thousands of years to grow. And so the catalyst is necessary to help speed that process up because, well, the factories can't just sit there and wait a few thousand years for their diamonds to grow. So they use a catalyst to speed it up, and it can be finished in a matter of days or sometimes weeks. The typical catalysts that they use are either iron, nickel, or cobalt. Nickel's probably the most common of those. Sometimes a little bit of the metals can actually be seen in the finished diamond. They get trapped during the crystal growth, and that's one of the things that tells between HPHT and CVD diamonds. Let me show you some diamonds and the process and the equipment that they use to grow HPHT diamonds.
This is a diamond making factory in China. Each one of these blue units is a press that puts the extreme high pressure and high temperature force onto the carbon and the diamond apparatus to convert it into diamond. Now, all these synthetics are called lab diamonds because lab is nicer than factory. And if I were having diamonds made in a place like this, I would say this is not a lab, it is a factory. And only in the very heart of these giant presses is the apparatus or the material for making diamond, which I've marked here in green. And it's basically a diamond seed with some carbon around it. And you can see the pressure that will be placed on it when it's inside the giant press. And even this is kind of small. It's put into another unit. And you can see on the upper left, the same little green capsule that I have marked green. It's placed in another apparatus that's more spherical, and it's put inside another unit. And then that finally goes into the giant press where it's subjected to huge amounts of heat and pressure in order to grow the diamond. As I've mentioned, this type of apparatus has been used for decades and decades to grow huge amounts of abrasive diamond, and this little sand-grained bit is abrasive diamond. Each little grain is a little tiny crystal of diamond. Here's a close-up view of the abrasive diamond crystals, and you can see the crystals are pretty clear and clean. They're kind of yellow, but with abrasive, it really doesn't matter what the color of the stone is. But these, if they were large enough, it could be cut into yellow diamonds. But of course, for gemstone use, you want clear and colorless and larger sizes, full-size diamonds for cutting gems. And this is a clear, larger, colorless crystal of diamond grown by the high pressure, high temperature method that's eminently suitable for cutting a gemstone. And here is a good picture of all three types of diamonds. The one in the foreground is the high pressure, high temperature diamond suitable for gems. The one in the background on the left that's ringed with black is a diamond grown by the CVD method. And the one in the background on the right is one grown under natural conditions. It's a natural stone.
Now the next we'll look at the CVD diamond, and CVD stands for chemical vapor deposition. Now that's the method that they use to grow these diamonds, and it's in this method, the CVD method, that the real advancement and made cheap diamonds are coming from. That's where the process that people are refining and improving to grow good size, inexpensive diamonds that are real diamonds. Now in this process, they basically start with a very thin little diamond seed. It's basically like a sheet of diamond, a thin sheet of diamond that they use, and they put these into a chamber. And in the chamber, it's kind of a vacuum chamber. It doesn't have regular air in it. It has a mixture of methane and hydrogen. And they put several of these seeds. There's not just one seed. There's a number of them in the chamber. And they heat the inside of the chamber up, and they bombard the inside of the chamber with microwaves, like your microwave oven. And the gases that are in there include methane, sometimes hydrogen, and the microwave energy at the high heat that they heat it up, because they heat it up to kind of a dull red heat. It breaks down the methane, because methane is made of carbon and hydrogen. It breaks down the methane into carbon atoms, and the carbon atoms fall out and they land on the diamond seed. And because the diamond seed already has its carbon oriented in a diamond pattern way, because there's other orientations like graphite, which used in pencils, is another form of carbon. But because the sheet is already diamond, when the carbon atom falls on it, it tends to fall and slip into the matrix of being a growing in the diamond form, the diamond atom alignment. So when atoms are aligned the right way, you have a diamond instead of a piece of graphite. So literally the atoms fall out of there, and they end up slipping into and falling into and becoming part of that diamond, and the diamond seed grows as the additional carbon atoms are added to the surface of that diamond seed. And so layer by layer by layer, the diamond seed gets thicker and thicker and thicker. Now the exact details of how they do this, what I've told you is the generalities of it. But the exact details are closely guarded trade secrets. And as they advance the different techniques that they use, like I say, they're being able to produce this type of stuff cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. And also at the same time, though, larger stones and higher quality. It's variable depending on the apparatus and how they do it, but they grow about 1 to 10 microns per hour, and a micron is 1,000th of a millimeter. And so what they figure is it generally takes several weeks to a month or more to grow a 1-carat diamond. But it's a self-contained apparatus. It's not like somebody has to be sitting there fiddling with it all the time. It has methane and other gases coming in there. The microwave is on, it breaks them down, the atoms settle. And so it's kind of, once you get it going and going right, you just kind of leave it and give it time and let the crystal grow. Sometimes the CVD diamonds will contain spots of graphite, where the carbon falls down and oops, it starts to grow in the wrong pattern. And then sometimes they also have a kind of a rim of graphite where the atom falls down on the edge and it doesn't grow in the right pattern, and it grows in this graphite pattern, so they're black. But even when the rim is black, still the core part of the crystal, which is the part they're going to use for gem use, is still the colorless clear diamond. Now they can also make colors too. They can add different additives, and you want a reddish diamond or a bluish diamond or whatever, they can grow those too. Okay, so let's take a look at the CVD process, the equipment that they use, and some of the beautiful CVD diamonds that are being produced. And like I say, more and more and more and more are coming onto the market all the time, and the prices of these things are going to be dropping in the future. Let's take a look.
This is a CVD diamond factory, and this is one that's owned by a company called Lightbox, which is a subsidiary of De Beers. And De Beers has decided if you can't beat them, join them. So they're now making CVD diamonds. And while this is maybe less industrial looking than the factory for the HPHT diamonds, it's still very definitely a factory. Here's a diagram of the inside of one of these CVD diamond machines, and you can see at the top there's a source of microwave energy coming in, and then below that a source of carbon gas, usually methane, which is a carbon-bearing gas. There's an observation window, but then the purple area called plasma, this is where the actual gases break down into their constituent elements, the individual carbon atoms, and then they fall by gravity down onto the diamond substrate seeds, just the thin plates of diamond, so that when the carbon falls down, it aligns itself with the existing diamond into the diamond growth pattern. And below that is a source of heat to keep the whole thing at a good red heat, and any excess gas is pumped out to a vacuum pump. It's fairly simple, and it's why, once it's started and running right, it's comparatively low cost to make diamonds this way. Here's what the diamond seeds look like. They're just really literally a thin plate of diamond that is the source so that when the carbon atoms land on it, they can start growing as diamond. Here is a view of the actual CVD diamonds as they are growing. This is the view through the observation window, and you can see the diamonds as they get thicker and thicker. The lighter colored part in the middle is, of course, the diamond growth, and then the darker colored around the edge of each seed is an area where the carbon has aligned as graphite rather than as diamond. But still, the core of the seed is growing, getting thicker and thicker, creating a synthetic diamond. Here is one of the seeds as it would come out of the machine, with the center square grown a thick diamond, and then the black rim around it is just graphite, and graphite is soft and just very easily removed. Here is a handful of the completed CVD diamonds. You can see the seed has grown thick, and some of them still have a bit of a black edge to them, but other ones it's taken off all the way into the diamond, so the edge is clear. But even so, that just a thin edging of graphite on some of the squares. But see, these are sizes suitable for cutting multi-carat gemstones, and they're made rather easily with this CVD process. The engineers and the scientists are rapidly improving this process, and more high-quality, large stones are going to be coming out onto the market coming from this CVD process. And if you want to ask where this process can go, well, take a look at this. This is basically a seed, a thin sheet of diamond that is approximately 3.5 inches across. Now, you're going to see in the coming decades stones grown, and of course they're not going to be cheap and they're not going to be common, but there'll be stones that come out from the CVD process that are the equal or the better of the largest high quality diamonds that have ever been mined in planet Earth. But for now, there's going to be just huge amounts of these synthetic CVD diamonds of all sorts of sizes, from half carat to several multiple carats, 5 and 6, even 10 carat stones that are going to be coming on the market and greatly reducing the price and the cost of the natural stones as well. This is what's on the market now. You can get literally beautiful natural stone for $11,000, an equivalent lab stone for 20% of the price. And it's going to go cheaper. It's going to get even less. Right now, 20%. In the future, it'll be 10 and maybe even less. So if somebody's looking for an engagement or other stone and they want something really huge, maybe almost as big as the diameter of the person's finger, those stones are out there, and they're getting cheaper every year, and there's years worth of getting cheaper ahead of us.
Now you might expect that a lab-grown diamond is just going to be perfect every time. But the problem is, it's hard to grow these things. The techniques that are used, it's difficult, and there's just a certain amount of randomness. Now say, if you compared just a whole bunch of CVD diamonds versus an average group of natural diamonds, probably the quality of the CVD diamonds would be a little higher overall than the natural group. But just like is in natural diamonds, there's imperfections, and like I say, a little bit of growth of graphite or some other imperfection in the diamond surface as it grows. And so sometimes these diamonds do have small inclusions and other things in them. But like I say, it's the engineers that are working on better and better processes to cut down on any flaws or inclusions and to grow as perfect a diamond as they can. And the same is true for the HPHT. Probably the average grade is better than your typical average mined diamond, but still it has potential flaws. And then once the crystals are grown, they're cut, and because they are diamond, chemically and crystallography and hardness and other properties, it's all diamond. They're cut the same way natural diamonds are, the same kinds of a process. And then remember I mentioned earlier that a lot of cutters will be cutting both, and that sometimes they can get things mixed up. But not very often, but even so, it's cut by the exact same process, same kind of equipment, cuts both natural and synthetic stones, and then they're sent to be, if they're fine enough diamonds, they're sent to be graded or looked at by a grading company, and they get measured and charted and certified in the same kind of way that a natural diamond might be graded according to its cut and its color and flaws, etc. And of course, the natural diamonds get certified, but the synthetic diamonds can be certified too, but they're certified as synthetics. But as I said, that there's some crooks that have found a way around this certification method to get natural or get synthetics certified as if they were natural. Now, I've said in this video a bunch of times that this wave of lab-grown diamonds is going to just have a revolutionary, topsy-turvy kind of effect on the diamond market as a whole. For, a century and more, the diamonds have been a very, very closely controlled market with De Beers and maybe a few others controlling and limiting what diamonds come onto the market. And, when prices got soft, they pulled back on what they sold to try and support prices and keep things on an even keel. That control on the market is going out the window, because the future for diamonds is lower prices for all types, whether it be lab-grown diamonds, they're going to come down, natural diamonds, they're going to come down too. It's all going to be a reduction in price. You see, a significant percentage of jewelry buyers in the future, it's already happening now. It's not like, this is going to happen a couple of years from now. A significant percentage of jewelry buyers are just going to choose to spend less money and get a larger stone by getting a synthetic. And as long as you know you're getting a synthetic, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the synthetic. You just don't want to be cheated and pay the price for a natural stone and get a synthetic instead. But if you're told, hey, this is the synthetic stone, but it's the same color and qualities as a regular natural diamond, there's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of jewelry buyers are going to choose that route. And it has to have an effect on the market because, some young lady that's buying her husband or her fiance, future husband is buying her a nice stone. He's going to choose to get the synthetic. She's agreeing to it. And, they're not going to be in the market to buy a natural stone. So there's going to be softness. And like I say, De Beers is already feeling it. 37% down year over year. That's huge for any business. And that kind of thing is going to cause big shakeouts. There's going to be diamond mines that close. There's going to be jewelers that go out of business because they can't keep up. There's going to be just a big upheaval in the whole industry. One of the things about these new synthetics is that a lot of the dealers that are making them, some of them are selling to jewelers too, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them are trying to market directly to the consumer. So you want to buy a De Beers synthetic diamond, then you can go on the internet and find their dealership and buy a wedding ring with a synthetic diamond in it for a lot less than what you'd pay for an equivalent natural stone at a retail jeweler, and that's going to happen more and more. Yes, there'll always be retail jewelers, and yes, there'll always be diamond mines in the ground producing natural diamonds, and yes, there'll always be diamond making factories, but not every business is going to survive this. This is going to be a big upheaval in the next decade, and not everyone's going to keep their head above water. As I've said, the big growth in this industry is in the CVD category, where they're growing those diamonds, as the carbon atoms settle on the seed, they're growing them one layer at a time. And even though it takes time, it's relatively inexpensive. And huge improvements continue to be made in that industry, cutting costs down, improving quality, making things go faster, and just delivering better and better goods. Right now, as I've said, there's a lot of profit in the CVD industry, and the people that are in that business are just scrambling, as hard as they can to build more factories and expand existing factories. There's factories, several of these things, that are built in the United States. You don't think of the United States as being a big place for serious manufacturing, but people are building these factories in the US because we can get high-tech workers to come and work in these places, but they're being built in India, China, all over the world, really. The people are building these CVD factories, and it's just the output is growing and growing and growing. Every year it's increasing significantly. But the time is going to come, and I don't know whether it's 2 years from now or 5 years from now or 10 years from now, but the time is coming in the not too distant future that there's going to be a day of reckoning. And the people that have been producing all these CVD stones, and the supply has been going up and up and up, eventually they're going to realize that they've oversaturated the market. This is a story that's been, told in 100 industries in the past. When things are really profitable, people scramble to do that, and then eventually they overproduce, and then prices go down and competition goes up. And that's what's going to happen in the CVD diamond industry. There's going to be people that are scrambling to keep their business open, and they're going to be cutting prices to undercut their competitors, and the competitors are going to want to undercut them, and it's going to be more and more competitive, and they're going to be more and more selling directly to the public. You can buy loose stones now too. That's another thing you can buy with these CVD diamonds. You can buy nice size loose gems easily, but it's going to become a point where there's just so much competition and so much production that people are going to be forced out of business. And the really great profit margins that are in effect now are going to dry up and evaporate, and they won't be there. And so not everybody in the highly profitable CVD industry is going to survive, because eventually it won't be so highly profitable as it is now. Many retail jewelers are kind of resistant to sell lab stones because, one, they're coming down in price so fast. If the jeweler buys something for his stock to show people, the price of the diamond if it sits in stock for a year, it may come down so fast that he loses money on the sale of it. Or he has to try and sell it at a price that, the consumer could go out and get it for half of that, because the price of the thing has come way down. So jewelers really only selling them on what they call a memo, which is basically you have somebody offers you a stone, you sell your customer something that you don't actually have, but you promise you'll get it, and then the person comes back and you've got the thing delivered overnight or whatever, and you can show your customer, and basically you don't acquire the diamond until you've made a sale. But I think many buyers are going to come to expect more and more with their diamond purchases. That little quarter carat and third carat diamonds are not going to be things that most girls are going to fall for. They're going to want bigger stones because they're not that expensive, right? And the other thing is, with less expensive stuff, the jewelers have less of a markup. So it's going to be tough because the wedding ring industry is a big part of the retail jeweler industry, and it's going to be affected. And like I say, not all retail jewelers are going to survive this event. And as I've said, the miners are going to be severely affected by this because a big chunk of their market that they sold their diamonds, is going to go away. It's going to go over to the synthetic side. And so their market that was this big is going to be this big because only a certain number of people are going to say, well, I really want a diamond mined out of the earth. That makes a difference to me. So I'm willing to pay a lot more for that. There's not going to be that many of those people. And so there's going to be diamond mines that are going to be closed. Miners are going to be laid off. And only the most profitable underground or most profitable diamond mines are going to survive. It's going to be tough going. That's why I say De Beers has already seen the light and started to make synthetic stones themselves. Another thing is investment in diamonds. Right now, there's clear path of why both the price of synthetics and the price of natural stones are going to be headed down. And so, historically, people have used diamonds as investments. If you want to buy a piece of diamond jewelry for wearing for a special occasion or something like that, hey, that's great. You're not so much worried about the capital appreciation of the price of your diamond, right? But if you're buying diamonds or investing in diamond mining companies for the purpose of making money, of price appreciation, yeah, you're looking at a significant series of events that are going to take the prices of diamonds down, 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 and make things harder for the miners, harder for the retail jewelers, harder for everybody, and harder for the manufacturers of the synthetic diamonds. It's going to be a thing where, I've actually thought about maybe trying to sell short on some of this stuff because it's going to happen. It's going down. I don't know that I'm willing to take the risk of selling short, but even so, it's the kind of thing where you definitely don't want to be investing hoping for capital improvement capital appreciation, because it's just not going to happen. Now, most of my videos, they're about gold prospecting, but also about crystals and diamonds and that kind of thing, prospecting in general. And the thing about prospecting is the more you know, the better off you are. It's a matter of knowing your stuff and having knowledge. And I wrote a book called Fistful of Gold because I want you to be able to go out and find fistful of gold for yourself. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my book right now.
So this is my book, Fistful of Gold. You can see it's an encyclopedia distilling down my 45 plus years of prospecting experience plus my degree into the parts that you need to know. I spent most of 10 years writing this. It was not just a simple effort that, I sat down and wrote it. You can see it's like 250,000 words. It's not something you're going to read through in a day or maybe even a week or more. But it's got a lot of information and reference material that you can come back to. You can read it once and read it again and get more out of it because there's just that much depth of material in this. I wrote this book because I want you to have the skills to go out and find fistfuls of gold for yourself. And if you have the skills and know what you're doing and get out in the field and make a real effort, you can find significant gold. It's not easy. I'm not going to tell you that because, gold, it wouldn't be, close to $2,000 an ounce, which is what it is right now. It wouldn't be so expensive if it was easy to find. It's not easy. You just can't walk out into an old gold field and start picking up nuggets. If the gold was easy to see and find, the old timers would have picked it up and taken it themselves. So you got to have skill. You got to know what you're doing. You got to be able to master what it takes to find gold, and you've got to have the persistence and put in the effort to find the material to find the gold or diamonds or gemstones that you're looking for. Now, book has geology, it has facts about gold, it has stuff about diamonds and platinum, but it's mostly about gold deposits, how gold deposits form, how placer and nuggets form, all the questions you've probably wanted to ask. The book is available on Amazon, and I'll put a link to it in the description below, but you can look up on Amazon Fistful of Gold and by Chris Ralph and find this book. Now, the book, if you look on it, it has a very high rating. It has like a 4.7 or 4.8 out of 5, which is really high. I mean, it's hard to please everybody, but I'm close to a 5 out of 5, not far from it, right? So it's been out. I've sold more than 15,000 copies of this book, and I've had tremendous response, tremendous positive response by the people who buy it. And I think if you buy it, you'll be just as happy with it. Now, in addition to my book, I also have a website that I do, and I'll tell you a little bit more about my website and show you some images from the website right now. Now, my website is nevadaoutbackgems.com, and I'll put a link to the prospecting page, this prospecting encyclopedia page, down in the description below, but you can find it at Nevada Outback Gems. I sell some jewelry, turquoise, other gemstones there. I don't always keep the inventory perfectly up to date, so if you're interested in anything you see, do contact me first before trying to send me money or anything, because I want you to be able to get what you order. But the website has lots of different stories, old adventures, even some stories, true stories from the old-time miners of the 1800s. So I think it's something you'll find interesting. The other thing I want to go back to is that all my comments, I want you guys to ask questions on the comments for my videos. I answer 100% of the comments that are made on my videos. Now, sometimes if somebody just says, "Hey, great video, I really enjoyed it," the comment may just be, "Well, I'm really glad you liked it," or if it's a simple question. And sometimes I get people who ask me questions. I would take a book to answer that question, and I recommend that they just buy the book. But I answer all my questions. I try to help people as much as I can. I'm here to help you. So if you're interested in gaining the skills, if you're interested in knowing what you need to know to be successful, follow along with me. Subscribe to my channel, hit the bell so that they'll let you know when I come out with new videos, and I try to do that pretty much every Saturday morning. And you'll enjoy with me, you'll come along with me, we'll have an adventure together, and we will find some nice gold and see what it's really like getting out in the woods, or the deserts, or the mountains, wherever we land, wherever the gold is, wherever the diamonds are, wherever the platinum is. Come along, we'll have some fun. And I'll see you real soon on the next video.